from 1989 onwards till almost 2014, in India we have only the coalition governments. And in all these coalitions, regional parties were dominating the national politics. And during this particular phase of 25 years, chief ministers were dominating the prime minister. Prime minister was almost like a nominal executive during this phase. Every prime minister who served as a prime minister during this 25 years period was like a nominal executive. So because the states were becoming the most strongest partners in the coalition governments at the union. So this is a kind of reversal of domination. Instead of union dominating the states, states were dominating the union. Both the situations are dangerous for the Indian federalism. There should be neither a domination of union nor a domination of states. And in this process, Planning Commission was playing a key role in the mutual domination. The union government was using the Planning Commission as one of the sources of controlling the states with reference to the fiscal federalism. Because what the Planning Commission was doing, Planning Commission was allocating funds to the states. And government was using the Planning Commission in controlling the states by allocating the funds, though there was a separate constitutional body, the Finance Commission. Planning Commission is an extra constitutional body, Finance Commission is a constitutional body. So non-constitutional body. So in this context, the recommendations of the Finance Commission, which is a constitutional body, were ignored by the Planning Commission. The government was giving only importance to the suggestions of the Planning Commission in suggesting, in recommending funds to the states. So only with reference to the funds that the states were under the control of the union government. Simultaneously from 1989, that is 2 years later, from 1991, we are also introduced with the liberalization program. So with the introduction of the liberalization program, and there was also coalition government system. And in the liberalization process, more freedom was also given to, financial freedom was also given to the states. So then came 2014. And in the Indian federal history, 2014 was the new chapter, the election of the 2014. Because BJP came to the power by a proposal to establish a cooperative federalism. So the fundamental promise made by BJP to various regional political parties is that they wanted to establish a cooperative federalism. As I told you, there should be neither domination of the union nor a domination of the states. What should be the criteria? There should be mutual cooperation between the union and states to go forward. So the Prime Minister has come up with various slogans like cooperative federalism followed by Team India. Team India means where the captain of the ship would be the Prime Minister and the members of the team would be the chief ministers. And he has also proposed several other kind of things like Sabke Saath, Sabka Vikas, insisting that with the participation of the states only, there will be national development. We talk about the development of the country. And development of the country would not be possible without the development of the states. And that is the Sabke Saath, Sabka Vikas. So therefore, for 2-year period, the central government has made all the necessary efforts to create an assumption among the people that we are already entered into a cooperative federalism. Beginning with the abolition of the Planning Commission, replacing the Planning Commission with the Niti Aayog. The Niti Aayog objectives itself is indicating that it is intended to establish the cooperative federation. Similarly, the central government has reorganized, abolished and rationalized centrally sponsored schemes. Now, what is a centrally sponsored scheme? The schemes which are implemented by the central government with partly provided funds, and the remaining part of the funding should be provided by the states. There used to be 147 centrally sponsored schemes by 2014, and the government has rationalized all these centrally sponsored schemes to reduce it to 30. It reduces the burden of the states in implementing various central government programs. So central government was implementing its programs through the states, through the financial contribution by the states. So this is another measure that the government has taken to create an assumption among the people that it is creating the cooperative federalism. And then the government has also initiated another a program called Make in India campaign. Make in India campaign means the Prime Minister visiting various countries in the world and asking them to invest in India, manufacture in India, and sell anywhere in the world. Wherever the Prime Minister is going, he was accompanied by several chief ministers in the states. With the collaboration of the chief ministers, the Prime Minister was visiting various countries in the world. So this is also made the people to think that we are already entered into a cooperative federalism. But then came 2016. Very soon, the dreams of the people of establishing the cooperative federalism have been shattered. And from 2016 onwards, we have entered into a combative federalism, from cooperative federalism to combative federalism. And what is this combative federalism? Union and states are always in the process of conflicting with each other. This is more danger than conflict. Because during the period between 1968 to 1988, there was conflict. Now there is again a conflict, but this is described as a combat. Because both union government as well as state governments are equally more powerful than each other to conflict with each other. So earlier when there was conflictive federalism, union government was dominant and state governments are weaker. But now the state governments have also become so stronger with the support of the Supreme Court. The judiciary is also a champion of the rights of the states. Because judiciary since 1990s is protecting the states from the domination of the union government, beginning with the S.R. Bommai case. So S.R. Bommai case is a milestone judgment in the federal history of India, which has provided for several provisions to protect the rights of the states. And since then, the Supreme Court is protecting the states. So therefore, with the support of the states, the state governments are protecting their rights. In 2016, the union government has imposed a president rule in several states which are ruled by the non-BJP governments. And one of those states was Arunachal Pradesh. But the Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh did not remain silent. He went to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court has censured the central government for imposing the president's rule unreasonably. And has given, again, for the first time in the Indian history, constitutional history of India, a dismissed government was re-established by the judiciary. A government which was dismissed by imposing the president rule was re-established for the first time in 2016. So that's how the Supreme Court is supporting the states. So now it is a combat. It's a war between union and the states. Union government is taking over the powers of the states gradually by making and enacting several legislations. A series of legislations have been enacted and amended. Suppose there is an amendment to RTI Act, Right to Information Act, in 2019. So this RTI Amendment 2019 says that the number of commissioners to work in the State Information Commission will be decided by the central government. So under the RTI Act, there will be a State Information Commission and a Central Information Commission. Earlier, the number of State Information Commissioners will be decided by the state government only. But hereafter, because of the 2019 amendment to that Act, the number of commissioners in the RTI, in the Information Commission at the state, would be decided by the union government. And the salaries are also decided by the union government. That is, the power of the state is being taken away. Suppose another example is the dam safety bill. Dams and river water, all these things will be coming under the state list. River waters comes under the state list. But in the name of this dam safety, the union government has taken over these powers. Similarly, establishing the Ministry of Cooperation in the union government. Cooperative societies is actually a state list item. And union government has established a Ministry of Cooperation in the union government, taking over the power of the states. And the lockdown has revealed how the union government has completely dominated the states. During the lockdown period, by using various legislations like Disaster Management Act, without consulting any state, that the union government has imposed the lockdown. So because of the lockdown imposed by the union government, states have to lose their incomes. The primary sources of income for the state governments is from the liquor. All the liquor shops are closed. Second source of revenue is from the vehicle registrations, and there is no question of vehicle registration. Third source of revenue is from the property registration. Even there was no property registration for almost a year, that the state governments have lost all this revenue. Moreover, the GST revenue to be paid to the states, almost to the extent of 44,000 crores, was also suspended by the union government during this 2 months period. And that is not yet being released to the states. And all this indicating that the union government has taken over all the powers. And these days we are also hearing the words like one nation, one election, one nation, one ration card. All those things, all those practices are also unitary practices, re-centralizing practices. Suppose if in 2024, one nation, one election is being implemented, it will require amendment of the constitution. It will require two things to be happened. One thing is the legislatures, the state legislatures, whose term will be completed very soon, they will be extended till 2024. And those legislatures whose term is not yet completed by 2024 will be terminated in the premature process. So in this situation, the intention of the union government would be conducting simultaneous election for both union and the states, but that will not be impractical in the very near future. Suppose if in any state government is prematurely dissolved, it should be imposed with the president rule. Then immediately no election can be conducted. That state would be under the president's rule for the rest of the period. So this is again a process of taking over the powers of the state in the name of simultaneous election, one nation, one election. So there are such things which are creating the tendencies of like combative federalism, and there is a need for transformation of Indian federalism from combative to collaborative federalism. So the collaborative federalism means, as I told you already, the development of the nation would not be possible without the participation of the states. So they should collaborate with each other, not only in terms of economic aspects, but also in terms of political aspects. The central government the union government has to take into consideration the demands of the states also, the requirements of the states. Indian federation should transform from the present system of combative federalism to a collaborative federalism, whereby all the states and the union government will work together. Similarly, there are also conflicts among the states as well. There is always a conflict between AP and Telangana ever since they are being separated. Suppose Telangana has to pay 6,500 crores to Andhra Pradesh government, and that is not yet paid. And there are 9 areas between AP and Telangana which are yet to be settled. Suppose in Delhi, there is an Andhra Bhavan, there is a place called Andhra Bhavan. In this Andhra Pradesh Bhavan, it is established in a place of 27 acres. It should be distributed between AP and Telangana. So it is not yet decided how to distribute this AP Bhavan between AP and Telangana. And the issues related to the river water distribution, Krishna river water distribution, Godavari river water distribution is not yet decided. So these are the things that are indicating how conflicts among the states are also yet to be resolved. Conflicts not only about the river water sharing and other things. There are conflicts even about practically some states like West Bengal and the neighboring states are in a war with each other. They are entering into a physical war. The states there was almost like a military war between Arunachal Pradesh and its neighboring states for the sharing of a territorial area. And there was another situation which has created almost a combat between the union government and the state forces, between CBI chief and the state police chief in West Bengal. Central government has also issued an arrest warrant against the chief secretary of West Bengal. So all these things are indicating that there is a combat between the between the union and states and among the states. Hence, there is a need for a collaborative federalism. So, based on these dimensions, that is a transformation of Indian federation from joint family federation to a confrontational federation, and from confrontation to a state domination federation. That is between 1989 to 2014, state dominating the federal system. States are controlling the union. And now we are in the process of, we have transformed from cooperative federalism to combative federalism. And there is a need for transformation ultimately to a collaborative federalism. Based on this description, you can ask me any doubts if you have, any questions you have, because Indian federalism is an important topic for the examiner, both in the prelims exam and the mains exam. There is no question paper without a question on the federalism. So if you have any questions, let me know about the federalism in India. So I did not discuss anything about the fundamental constitutional aspects of center-state relations. The center-state relations, that is legislative, administrative, financial relations, they are all very much there in the textbooks. What I have discussed today is what is not there in the textbooks. So this is one side of the discussion. There is another side of the discussion also. The people say, they say that this domination of the union over the states is necessary. States demands of the states is they want more autonomy. But what the union government is saying, this domination of the union government over the states is very much necessary, keeping in view the sensitive conditions of the country, the geographical conditions of the country. Geographically, India is a very sensitive region because almost 7,000 kilometers of Indian territory is exposed to the international borders. So when it is exposed to the international borders, it is necessary that the union government has to protect these international borders from Pakistan on one side, Afghanistan on the other side, China and Bangladesh and also Myanmar. And there is an intrusion of enemy aliens into the Indian territory. And this intrusion has to be controlled. Suppose Rohingyas is one of the biggest problem in the country. So in the media people will be very much in favor of the Rohingyas. But Rohingyas are very much dangerous people. They are almost like the devils. You don't know about that. So there are certain paradoxical situations. Suppose Buddhism, if you talk about the Buddhism is based on the ideals of peace. In Myanmar, what is the official religion? The official religion in Myanmar and the majority people living in Myanmar are the Buddhists. And it is because of the religious persecution of the Rohingya Muslims by the Buddhists. The Rohingya Muslims are supposed to escape from their localities. The Buddhist who supports the peace and non-violence, who preaches the non-violence, they are committing the non-violence. They are committing the non-violence, the Buddhists are committing the non-violence and forcing the Rohingyas to flee. And they are fleeing to Bangladesh. This is another paradox. When they are fleeing to Bangladesh, Rohingyas are the Muslims. Bangladeshi major community or official religion is also Islam. But Bangladesh is not ready to keep the Rohingya Muslims. So now they are forced to flee to India. And around 1,200 Rohingyas are settled even in Hyderabad also. Around 1,200 people are settled in Hyderabad. Whether these Rohingyas be allowed to stay in India or not. And people say that on humanitarian grounds, benevolently, they should be allowed to stay in India. But then when they are not accepted by the people of their place of origin, the place of origin, Myanmar, they are not accepted. And they are also not accepted in the place of migration, that is in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the people, the predominant religion and official religion is Islam. Even that Bangladesh is also not accepting them to stay. Then why India should allow them to stay? So we should not allow these people because they are the foreigners, that's all. Not because of the religious background. Only because of the foreign character of these people, they should not be allowed to stay in India. They should be deported. Officially also, constitutionally also, legally as well. Legally, constitutionally and officially, there is no law to let the migrant people, the people who are refugees, to be allowed to stay in India, because India is not a signatory of any international treaty that makes India to accept the refugees. India is not a signatory of any of these things. So therefore, the union government is also saying they have to be deported. Deporting means they have to be made to leave the country, or they should be imprisoned for illegally staying in India. Suppose if you illegally migrate to Pakistan, will you be allowed to stay as a normal citizen? Suppose if you flee to Myanmar, will you be allowed to stay peacefully as a normal citizen? You will never be. Then why should we allow illegal migrants, illegal refugees to stay in India? This is what the union government arguing. So there is nothing wrong in this argument. We are not deporting them on grounds of religious background. We are deporting them only on grounds of illegal migration, illegal refugee staying in India. And these people are having, even they have also gathered the Aadhaar cards, PAN cards and ration cards. Meaning they are sharing our resources. If they are having an Aadhaar card, if they are having a ration card, they are taking away our resources. What is to be the right to be enjoyed by the people in India is taken away by this Rohingya community. So why I am talking all these things is because the union government has this responsibility to maintain the unity and integrity of the nation, peace and integrity of the nation. Hence union domination is required to be there over the states, which is the country, because 7,000 kilometers of the nation is being exposed to the international boundaries. Around 5,200 kilometers is also exposed to the international waters. The seashore is almost 5,200 kilometers and it is also sensitive. And therefore, through the agencies like Coast Guard, the union government should have a control over this peninsular region. And that means the entire country should be under the control of the union government to protect the sensitive security reasons, on grounds of the sensitive security reasons. Moreover, new forms of terrorism are emerging in India. There is an organization, terrorist organization from Pakistan called PFA. And this PFA is radicalizing the Muslim youth in this country. Not somewhere else in the country. You can find the operations of the PFA only in Kurnool, just 3 hours away from this place. This PFA has taken a building by paying 3,50,000 rupees rent per month. And in this building, this PFA is giving Kung Fu training to 3,000 youth, Muslim youth. It is giving the Kung Fu training. Earlier, the terrorist organization used to give training in the weapon handling. Now it is giving training in handling fighting through the martial arts like Kung Fu and Karate. 3,000 youth are being radicalized accordingly. And these people are also trained in stone pelting. You don't have to search for the guns. You just have to pick up a stone and shoot it. Even by throwing a stone also you can kill the people. So the training is in these two activities. And recently the NIA has cracked down this organization in operating in Kurnool only. And they will be ready to attack at any point of time if they are allowed to stay. And all these people have been arrested. Now it is the responsibility of the state to de-radicalize them. And during the course of interrogation, it was also found that such organizations are also operating in the places like Nizamabad in Telangana. Even in Nizamabad also, they are operating such activities. You don't have to carry the weapons to create problems in the society. If you know the martial arts, like Kung Fu and Karate, if you know the stone pelting properly, then you become a biggest threat to the nation. So it is all the responsibility of the union government So the union agencies like central government agencies like NIA are cracking down all these things. And one of the sources of terrorism in the country is the financial sources. And now the union government is cracking down on the financial roots of the terrorist organizations. The financial roots of the terrorist organizations have to be controlled. They have to be removed. And how the union government is doing this? In the recent times, the union government is doing this through the income tax department and through the enforcement directorate. Wherever there are illegal operations, it is being cracked down. Particularly, suppose if there is an NGO, and even the union government has amended the FCRA Act to control the activities of the NGO in 2020. Foreign Contribution Regulation Act is being amended. It is amended to ensure that the NGOs will not receive terror fund for the terrorism. Now suppose what happens is money laundering will take place through the NGOs. Suppose a company in Dubai or Canada will contribute 500 crores to a NGO organization in India. And the objectives of that NGO organization will be like promoting education and awareness among the people. So after posting this 500 crore rupees to this NGO, what they do is they withdraw the money, because NGOs only have to submit the income tax returns. They don't have to pay the income tax. NGOs and societies need not pay the income tax. And they withdraw the money. And that money can be used for anything. It can be used for such kind of terrorist activities like the PFI is doing. So if you are paying a rent of 3,50,000 rupees per month to a building, how you are earning this money? Through such kind of activities. And several NGOs are also being sponsored by the Western countries also. Suppose in Tamil Nadu, there is a place called Kudankulam. And in Kudankulam, we have a nuclear project, nuclear power reactor. And if this nuclear power reactor, if it comes to the full activity, complete activity, there are 6 units. If all the 6 units start operating, the power problem, the electricity problem in at least 14 states in the country will be eliminated. But this is being obstructed by the NGOs in the country. Why the NGOs are obstructing? They are saying that if this nuclear power reactor comes to the full operation, it would release 4,500 liters of radiation water per day into the sea. Usually these nuclear power reactors should be established only on the seashores only, because the salty waves would be useful to control, naturally keep the nuclear power reactor under control. So they have to release 4,500 liters of radiation water into the sea every day. Meaning it is a murder of the complete aquatic life. Not only the murder of the complete aquatic life, it is also eliminating the livelihood of the fishermen who are depending on that. On these grounds, these NGOs are fighting. But actual reason is, Germany is actually sponsoring money to these people to stop the construction and completion of this project. Why Germany is contributing the money for this? Because if this comes into the operation, we don't have to import the nuclear energy from the nuclear supplier group. One of the 40 countries in the nuclear supplier group is Germany. Major country is Germany. And if we do not complete this project, we have to import nuclear energy from Germany. And if it is completely coming into the operation, it would be a very big loss of business to Germany. And ignoring all those threats, the government of India in 2015 has commissioned this nuclear power reactor. So therefore, certain things are necessarily to be controlled by the union government, which are not being controlled by the states. What states cannot do in the interest of the nation should be done by the union government. Suppose when there was Blue Star operation in the 1980s, the Blue Star operation means in Punjab, in the Golden Temple, this operation is being conducted to control the Khalistan terrorists. And state police could not control the Khalistan terrorism. Hence, the union government control was necessary. The union government could able to successfully crack down the Khalistan terrorism. And the Khalistan terrorism got eliminated after the Blue Star operation. But secretly, the heirs of the the consequences of this Blue Star operation and the Khalistan terrorists were operating even today also from Canada. And they were responsible, these Khalistan terrorists were actually responsible for the farmers movement in Delhi. Everybody was having some compassion towards the farmers when they were protesting against the farm laws. The farmers, they were not the farmers who were protesting against the farm laws. They were only the agents, the middle brokers. It is only the brokers who were protesting against the farm laws. And they were protesting with the money contributed by this Khalistan terrorists from Canada. So how all this information came out? It is because of the perfect functioning of the central agencies like Intelligence Bureau, Research and Analysis Wing, CBI. All these central agencies are controlling the states in the protection of the national interest for the national security. So therefore, in the first half of the discussion, we discussed that there is a need for decentralization and devolution of powers. And the second half of the discussion, we were discussing that union control over the states is very much necessary to protect the national interest and in the national security, in terms of the national security. The integrity and sovereignty of the country can be protected only when the involvement of the union government is existing. So, union government is also looking forward to create Akhanda Bharat. As I told you in the beginning, Article 1 is supposed to be amended, saying that Akhanda Bharat, that is India, is a federation of states. That should be the new amendment. That balances both the demands of the union and the states. What is that Akhanda Bharat? Actually, Akhanda Bharat means Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and the mainland India. All these regions together would be the Akhanda Bharat before the East India Company has established their rule. But of course, today we are thinking only about the Pak-occupied Kashmir. So, Pak-occupied Kashmir belongs to India or Pakistan? Who is the owner of this region called Pak-occupied Kashmir? India is the owner, occupied by somebody else. Suppose if you have a piece of land, 500 square yards of land, and this is being occupied by a local rowdy. And whose land it would be? Local rowdy occupied territory or your own territory? It is your own territory. So the local rowdy is Pakistan there. That local rowdy called Pakistan has occupied this territory and that should belong to India. So that should be merged with India. So that will create a, what is called as the Akhanda Bharat. At the same time, Union of States should also be amended as Federation of States. So why it should be amended as Federation of States? Because to fulfill the demands of the states also. Increase the powers of the states. Wherever necessary, Union government should also have its control over the states. So the same kind of situation should continue to exist, but not in the same manner as it was there in 1950, but with more autonomy to the states and reasonable control over the states by the Union. So based on these aspects, so one has to understand the federal requirements. Don't go only by the Hindu newspaper ideology. Hindu newspaper ideology is not relevant in the present situation. In the present UPSC format, Hindu newspaper concepts are not useful. Because Hindu paper is always giving only the leftist ideology. And always critical about the government. So you should be critical about the government. At the same time, you are also supposed to be positive towards the government. How the government is, central government is taking up various actions should be supportable. So don't you think that the civil society should be regulated? Civil society means the NGOs. NGOs are under the regulation of the government more thoroughly than earlier. The Union government, after coming to the power in 2014, has banned almost 19,000 non-governmental organizations. Since 2014, 19,000 NGOs have been banned. which are not submitting their income tax returns. You don't have to pay the income tax. You have to submit the income tax returns. What is that income tax return? You should tell the government what are your sources of income and why you are spending them. So they are not submitting the returns. When you are not submitting the returns, you don't have the right to stay in the country. Secondly, even the amendment of FCRA, it is saying that when you are getting the money for the purpose for which you are established, you should be spending it for the same purpose, not for any other purpose. Reasonable or not? Suppose an NGO organization is established to promote the education, and it is getting a contribution of 1,000 crores from across the world. And this 1,000 crores should be spent, out of the 1,000 crores, at least 900 crores should be spent for development of education. Remaining 100 crores can be spent for administrative expenditure. But what these NGOs are doing is, majority of the NGOs are doing is, they are spending 100 crores for the education, and they are saying that remaining 900 crores are spent for the administration. So the purpose with which you are established is completely defeated. And what is the administrative expense? Nobody knows. So it can be money laundered to even for the terrorist activities against the government in India. So majority of the terrorist operations in India have come down since 2014, more particularly after 2016, because the central government has made a strike on the financial roots of the terrorist organization. By how? By demonetizing the Indian economy. People were worried about demonetization of the Indian economy. But it is being proven that this demonetization is having a good result. So the currency economy is being shifted to the electronic economy. And last month, almost 650 crores of transactions have taken place through the online mechanism. 650 crores of transactions. I am not talking about the monetary amount. I am talking about the number of transactions that are taking place through the UPI. Only through the UPI mechanism that 650 transactions are taking place, meaning the people are not using the currency. The people are using only the online transactions. It is a big blow to the terrorist organizations. Because if there is a currency, what happens? Gradually government has withdrawn 2,000 rupees. Even though 2,000 rupees were printed, those 2,000 rupees have been withdrawn by the government. So therefore you don't see the huge number of 2,000 rupees notes at present. They were all being withdrawn by the RBI. And why the government is doing all these things is because if there is a currency mechanism, countries like Pakistan are supplying the counterfeit currency into India. Counterfeit currency means fake currency. Fake currency is being supplied and they are taking away the original currency. And that is creating the wealth for the terrorist organization. And even when GST was introduced, GST was actually intended to create a kind of cooperative federalism. But the states were objecting it. So when the GST is increased, recently the government has imposed GST on new items also, like even in the smaller items like matchboxes. When GST is imposed, even again the states were objecting it. But reality is, when GST revenue is being generated, 50% will go to the state and 50% will go to the union government. If 100 rupees is generated, 50% is taken away by the state. But KCR will never talk about that. He is only talking about criticizing the central government, only about how GST prices have been increased and people will have to suffer. But the reality is people don't have to suffer. In the month of July, government has generated almost 1,40,000 crores of GST revenue. And in the month of August, around 1,50,000 crores of GST revenue is being generated. And where does this money go? This is not a black money. This is all the white money. Ministers cannot take away this money. This money again will be spent by the union government and the state governments for the benefit of the people only. If 150 crores is generated, 75,000 crores would be taken by the central government, 75,000 crores would be given to the states, equitably distributed across all the states. So by pooling down all these revenues, the union government transfers 41% to the states. So when this is happened, meaning the revenue of the states is increasing, revenue of the union government is increasing, what the government will do with that revenue? Does the ministers take away this money? Or the MLAs and MPs will take away this money? They will not take away. It is all the takeaways of the people. They are all the takeaways of the people. It would be spent for the infrastructure development. Roads are built, infrastructure is built. It would contribute to the social growth. When every country in the world is negatively growing in terms of GDP, India is the only country which is experiencing a double-digit growth in terms of GDP. Last month, India's GDP is increased to the 13%, when America's GDP is only swinging at around 1% to 1.5%. China's GDP is only swinging around 1% to 1.5%. India's GDP is at 13%. And this month we also have witnessed another achievement. India has become the 5th largest economy in the world. When India became the 5th largest economy by defeating England, England's GDP is being crossed over by India's GDP. $3 trillion economy is being achieved, crossing over the $3 trillion economy of Britain. So we were, before September, we were in the 6th position in the overall economic conditions of in the world. 6th largest economy in the world. Today we are in the 5th largest economy in the world. And we are targeting not the 2nd position or the 3rd position. We are targeting the 1st position. Because in the present economy, America is in the top GDP, 2nd, China, and 3rd, other countries like Germany, France, and India is in the 5th position. And by 2024, India is targeted to achieve 5 trillion economy in the world. And this 5 trillion economy, by the time it is achieved, India may be in the 2nd position. So because even China is in a dangerous condition. Why China is in a dangerous condition? Chinese economy is declining. How Chinese economy is declining? Is because in China, people have no money. Even if they have money in the banks are not giving them money. Banks are in the losses. If you go to bank to withdraw your money, the bank will give you the money. But in China, it is not possible today. The banks are not giving the money to the people, their own money to the people. Real estate sector is completely under losses. There are at least 50 lakhs houses which are not occupied by the people. 50 lakhs houses today not occupied by the people. And actually this is according to the Chinese accounts. But a company in Britain has made another calculation which said that at least 1 crore houses are not being occupied by the people, meaning all this money is wasted in construction of these houses. And what the Chinese real estate companies are doing is, they are demolishing the constructed apartments. Demolition of the constructed apartments. And so far they have demolished 340 apartments. Demolition of, only when one apartment in Delhi was being demolished in India recently, everybody spoken about it. In China, 340 apartments have been demolished, meaning indicating all this regressive economy of China. And moreover, the zero COVID policy of China is also against the economic interest of China. What is that zero COVID policy? With their intention to achieve the zero COVID, it has kept 100% lockdown, and these lockdowns has affected Chinese economy very badly. Secondly, China is implementing various developmental projects across 130 countries in the world, 134 countries in the world. And they are not today they are not in a position to repay their developmental debts. When they are not able to repay that amount, so that money is struck among these 134 countries. Because every country is being affected because of the lockdown and they are not in a position to repay. The best example being Sri Lanka. It is not in a position. It has taken over the port, and by the taking over the port, it cannot do everything. And in Pakistan also, under the Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese government is constructing several developmental projects. And Pakistan is also pending a lot of debt to the Chinese government, and that is not being repaid for a long time, ever since the lockdown is being imposed. So when China is declining in its economic strength, and India is supposed to reach the second position, beating China in terms of GDP, economic growth. So it would be possible only because certain centralized policies taken up by the government. Once upon a time, what we are thinking as re-centralization, union domination over the states, are actually producing positive results. Positive results to grow the Indian economy and the Indian political system. So there are two dimensions I have discussed with you. Political dimension from the point of view of states, and also from the point of view of the union government. Why the union control domination over certain things is necessary. Because of the union control and domination over the states, India has achieved what could not be achieved so far. So it has taken almost 60 years to achieve a 1 trillion economy, the goal of 1 trillion economy. And it has taken 12 years to achieve 2 trillion economy. Then we have taken just 3 years to achieve this 3 trillion economy and has reached the 5th position in the world economies by beating Britain. And in fact, actually Britain has stolen a lot of wealth from India, which accounts for almost $45 trillion in the present day terms. If this $45 trillion are given to India, India would be in a position which cannot be reached by any other country in the world. Because the GDP of America is also the topmost country in the world, is only $20 trillion. Only $20 trillion. If Britain gives us all the wealth that is being stolen, what happens? India will reach $48 trillion economy. 45 trillion from Britain, and already we have 3 trillion. And no country will dare to reach India's position and can reach India's position. So that is possible. That would be possible only when central government is stronger. Central government should be as stronger as the state government. State government should have as autonomy as the union government. So that is the aspects to be discussed. And if you have any questions.
Is there any effect by the combative federalism on the civil servants who work under the state government? Is there any effect by the combative federalism on civil servants who work under the state governments?
It's a very good question. So one of the elements in the recent times is conflict with reference to the civil service also. Conflict between the union and states, that is combative federalism, even because of the civil service. So with reference to the civil service, actually civil servants, all India services, particularly all India services like IAS, as I told you, are also considered as union agents working in the states. Right? Union government agents working in the states like governor. But that was the story till 1990s. But after 1990s, since 1989, as I told you, regional parties becoming the part of the union coalition governments, civil servants started becoming the agents of the states only. Particularly the civil servants, all India services from the South India, they are not interested to work in the union government. Earlier what happened is, if you are appointed as an all India servant, like IAS or IPS, you will be having only the state cadres. Though there are state cadres, you are supposed to work in the union government for at least 5 years. Minimum 5 years you have to work. The same rule existing even today also. But however, gradually the civil servants are not showing interest to work in the union government. More particularly from the South Indian states and also from the northeastern part of the country also. They wanted, because if you go to the union government, you have to work under tremendous pressure. You may be close to the power center. You may be working with the Prime Minister himself. Suppose if you are posted in the PMO, you would become one of the 350 IAS officers in the PMO. If you are posted in the Cabinet Secretariat, You would be one among those thousands IAS officers, that's all. So therefore, you may be close to the Prime Minister, but you may not have so much of influence as you enjoy that in the state level. And the officers are also not preferring to leave their family to work in the Delhi, in the New Delhi. And moreover, the new generation IAS officers are also marrying another IAS officer. And therefore, they don't want to leave their family in their state cadre and work in the Delhi. Hence, they are not choosing to go to Delhi to work in the central cadre. And in the recent times, what we are witnessing is, because of the combative federalism, the states are not even ready to send their talented officers to the union government to work in various union departments. And there was a clear combat between the union government and the civil servants recently in West Bengal. In West Bengal, there is a chief secretary called Alapan Bandyopadhyay. And this chief secretary, Alapan Bandyopadhyay, was supposed to retire tomorrow. Suppose an incident happened last year. And when he is supposed to retire tomorrow, the Prime Minister happened to visit Calcutta. And the Prime Minister has visited Calcutta for attending a National Disaster Management Authority meeting, NDMA meeting, because at that time Calcutta was experiencing floods. So there was disaster. And as a part of the NDMA meeting, he organized the meeting and he asked Alapan Bandyopadhyay to attend, because Chief Secretary is also an important part in the State Disaster Management Authority. But because of the Chief Minister's orders, he did not attend it. So Mamata Banerjee did not ask him not to attend this meeting. But however, they have attended the meeting 1 hour late. And the Prime Minister was very dissatisfied with that kind of behavior, because All India civil servant, an IAS officer, is appointed by the President. When the IAS officer is appointed by the President, means he is appointed by the union government. The cadre controlling authority for the IAS officer is Ministry of Personnel, headed by the Prime Minister himself, no one else. And you have denied the order of the Prime Minister. And though the Prime Minister was dissatisfied with his behavior, he did not say anything. And he smiled at him and offered a shake hand and silently left. And after leaving to Delhi, he issued a show cause notice to the Chief Secretary, asking him why action should not be taken against you under the Disaster Management Act for not attending the meeting. Because as a civil servant, he is retiring tomorrow and has retired also already by the time he received that show cause notice. And he thought that nothing can be done against him. But the constitutional experts in the central government are not so easy to be understood. Because when it was thought that special status of Jammu and Kashmir cannot be repealed, they made it proved. There are several other things also which is being proved, which are considered to be impossible. And even Bandyopadhyay also thought that nothing can be done because he is retiring anyway. But the union government issued notification to him, show cause notice to him, under the Disaster Management Act, not under the service rules. And if he could not give the proper reason for his behavior, he would be imprisoned for 3 years. Even after the retirement also, he can be imprisoned for 3 years. That is a possibility. So this is a clear symbol of union conflict with the states with reference to civil service sharing as well. Because states are not ready to share its civil service, talented civil servants. And therefore the union government has come up with a new circular regarding the sharing of All India services. According to section 6 of the All India service rules, now what is being amended is, it is obligation for the states to send their officers to the central government. So the combative federalism is also having such kind of implication even to the civil service as well. Now, because as a civil servant you are working with the political executive, and as you are working with the political executive, you are supposed to work for both union and states. Though there is only a state cadre, union government through the Ministry of Personnel is having every authority to control you. Union government through the Ministry of Home Affairs is having every authority to control the IPS also, which is also another All India service.
Sir, recently center is saying to states not to give freebies, but center itself is giving freebies. How does it impact the autonomy of the federal units in the country?
So, one has to understand the meaning of the freebies, why the freebies are given and why they should not be given. Freebies are of two types. One is human development freebies and second luxury freebies. Human development freebies are necessary. Luxury freebies are not necessary. Suppose as a part of the election promises, if you are offered a color TV, that may not be necessary. But if you are offered a laptop, that may be necessary. So suppose midday meal scheme, when it was introduced in the early 1980s, everybody were critical about this program. In Andhra Pradesh, it was introduced in the early 1980s. But this midday meal program has increased the attendance of the students. At least for the sake of food, that the parents are sending their children to the schools. Suppose in AP there is a program called JIGNSA Goru Mudda. So under the JIGNSA Goru Mudda, midday meal scheme is implemented with a fresh menu every day. So this is very much necessary because it has created interest among the students to attend the school. Every day a new menu is being implemented across all the 6 days. So I was also one of the students in the government schools. In Hyderabad, there is a place called Islamia Bazaar. In Islamia Bazaar, there is a government school called Islamia Bazaar Boys High School. It was absolutely a boys' high school. And when N.T. Ramarao was the chief minister, I was a student in the 8th class. And we were offered 3 meals a day, not midday meal only, 3 meals a day. In the morning, they were offering an egg and a glass of milk. Still, I remember that experience of enjoying that milk and bread. And in the afternoon, a very good rice and sambar. I am still savoring the taste of that sambar. And also a glass of curd. Today, even today also I am experiencing and enjoying that taste of, remembering the taste of that curd. And in the evening before going to the home, they used to give us some murukulu, a pack of murukulu. And even that was also very tasty. So when 3 meals a day was offered, in the morning, we were very regular to the school. And in the afternoon, we never escaped the school because there is sambar rice. And in the evening also, we were not going home early because we were waiting for the murukku. So that is indicating that when the meal is being offered, any meal is being offered, the student would be regular. Because that kind of freebie systems is necessary. Union government is also implementing. Union government is implementing not unilaterally. Union government programs, as I told you already in the beginning, the freebies implemented by the union government are centrally sponsored schemes, not unilateral schemes. What is a centrally sponsored scheme? A centrally sponsored scheme, as I told you, that 60 to 80% of the funding will be given by the union government. 20% to 40% funding will be paid by the state governments. So this is the centrally sponsored scheme. Not only union government is implementing, and most of the programs are implemented by the states. Most of the programs are implemented by the states in the name of the state only, though it is completely sponsored by the union government. Recently, Nirmala Sitharaman visited Telangana state, and one of the IAS officers is being scolded by her because that officer is not aware of how much amount of money being given by the union government for the ration shop, for the ration rice. So union government is also contributing to it. But all the rice is being distributed as if it is being only contributed by the chief minister. Every state is under the same kind of assumption. So the union government is not implementing any programs by itself. It is only doing the sponsorship schemes.